Good morning from Zürich. You're listening to Monocle on Sunday with me, Tyler Brûlé. Coming up on today's program, my guest today, Juliet Linley, fresh around the microphone. Also, Damita Pressl is also here from the NZZ this morning. Damita, I'll start with you. What have you spotted? I mean, of course, we're going to be talking a lot about Eurovision this morning. Anything else for us today?
Yeah, the Northern Lights were visible in Zurich and all across German-speaking Switzerland, and I'm really jealous I didn't get to see them, but the pictures look beautiful.
Yeah, you would have stayed up later last night as well. But anyway, we'll discuss that. Also, our senior correspondent and music curator, Fernando Augusto Pacheco, joins us from Malmö for a Eurovision debrief, and we'll also be getting the latest news from the Nordics.
Sweden survives what can only be described as a highly unusual Eurovision Song Contest, and the Helsinki barber who promises not to talk to you. I'm Monocle's Helsinki correspondent, Petri Burtsoff, and I'll be bringing you the news from the Nordic region.
Of course, a bit more of Eurovision analysis from him as well. Plus, we'll speak to our North Africa correspondent, Mary Fitzgerald, who is speaking at the French Literature Festival Beyond Words in London. It's the 12th of May, 2024, live from Zurich. This is Monocle on Sunday.
Live from Zurich, this is Monocle on Sunday with Tyler Brûlé.
And good morning from a very, very sunny, summery Zurich this morning. This feeling of jubilation almost in the streets. Everyone is smiling because, of course, as you heard at the top of the program, we are the winners. Switzerland are the winners of the Eurovision Song Contest 1 year out from now, depending, and of course, what city is going to get to host this, which is going to be part of our discussion today, will be a fantastic moment. I'm very happy to say Juliet Linley is also with us this morning. Good morning. We were up rather late last night. You were busy corresponding with Emma, trying to shape the tone of this program. But it was a bit of almost a 5-hour marathon last night.
It was a bit of a marathon. Thankfully, it was filled with delicious food and some lovely hosts and all of that. But yes, Emma and I were corresponding. And if I look back at our messages, we were a bit skeptical about Mr. Nemo. And when the results came out, I mean, can we say it? You were one of the ones who called it.
Yes,
and
so we should say
we all put money on it.
Yes.
You walked home with a pack of money.
We did. Everyone could vote for 3 countries. And we put post-it notes up on the wall, and you had to pick your top 3, but 4 of the 8 who were over for dinner last night, they hit the nail on the head with
Switzerland. I was going for Cyprus. Look at that. How wrong was I? Yeah. Croatia or some random country like that. But yes, it was an amazing evening, and good for Nemo. And like I said, I was very skeptical. Then I came home at 1 a.m. and I decided to watch the press conference. And as he continued speaking as they continued speaking and smiling, I have to say they warmed on me a lot. And I loved that he even mentioned his mum, because it's Mother's Day today, and it's thanks to him thanks to his mum that he gave up a career as a chef to continue with his musical passions. Emma, isn't that inspiring, especially for your son, who seems to be a budding chef?
I thought he was a worthy winner, an absolute worthy winner. That they hit the nail on the head with absolutely every single bit. You know, when they got on the stage, that they just had it, absolutely had it, and put everybody else in the shade.
I think we should probably, because we have someone in position this morning as well, we should probably jump straight up to Malmö, because we have our Fernando Augusto Pacheco there. He's been on the trot for many, many years, of course, covering Eurovision for us, and he joins us from there right now. Fernando, good morning.
Good morning, Tyler. And Malmö, I have to say, was my first Eurovision back in 2013, but felt very different this time, I have to say.
And in many ways, but maybe should we just rewind 12 plus hours to, of course, where we were sort of in vote mode last night, before we sort of talk about certainly the scene there, the morning after the night before.
I mean, first of all, I have to say that Eurovision as a show impresses me every year, Tyler. I mean, the way they count the voting, I mean, is just so intense. I was in the crowd I sat close to a couple of young Croatians. I mean, they were desperate. Right at the end, it was either Switzerland or Croatia. But in the end, Switzerland won, very well deserved. But it's a fantastic show, even with all the challenges, all the politics. And as I say, there's been quite a few challenges this year. I think, Sweden hosted very well. Petra Mede, I think she's so funny. Probably one of the best Eurovision hosts, I have to add as well.
We're already getting sort of nods of approval from
Petra. We love Petra.
From Juliet as well.
I love her.
Yes.
Just maybe in a moment, I do want to talk about a little bit, of course, about, you talk about sort of the politics around this, and this is something we want to spend a little bit more time on, of course, this morning, because it's curious, isn't it? Because everyone talks about this notion that this, of course, is a celebration of song and politics shouldn't come into it, but it was sort of ever thus. And I almost wonder whether next year becomes the year that you just have to actually admit that this is a political event and stop dressing it up as something else. And I'm wondering what your sort of thought is on that narrative, Fernando.
Yes, it is a political event. I do think you still need to have a great song, though. I mean, if you have a bad song and be political, it's not going to work. And Tyler, it's funny because we talk a lot about left, right, pro or anti, but I do think there's space for everything. If you look at the scoreboard, you have, of course, Israel, which is super controversial, but had the televoting, which the public loved it. I mean, won 12 points from 15 countries on the televoting. But then you have the artist, Nemo, very sweet entry, and the first non-binary as well, artist on stage. So do you know what I mean? So there's space for a lot of ideologies. It is a representation of Europe in that sense, from both political sides, in my opinion.
Damita, you, of course, you didn't catch it last night, but you said you did your research, you've listened to everything, but maybe, of course, you represent around this table one of Switzerland's, certainly German-speaking Switzerland's newspapers of record, the NZZ, of course, the NZZ, a lot of coverage. It was amazing to see the big sort of red poppy-colored box that they had, breaking news, the second that it happened. So it seemed that there must have been a Eurovision desk awake last night to cover this. Your impression, certainly what this means for Switzerland, but also what was your favorite song?
I think everyone was incredibly excited, both my friends and colleagues in the media covering it. I saw, the stories, the videos, the moment where sort of this joy erupted, and Switzerland was a favorite, I believe, in the weeks running up to the contest, and that we've actually, or I say we, I'm Austrian, but that they've actually won it, I think was a huge moment of joy. At NZZ, actually, we made a video explainer on exactly how political the contest is. And I think when you say, is now the moment to admit that it's political, I think the moment was probably 10 or 15 years ago when, Russia had very controversial lyrics. They weren't changed. This year, Israel had to change their lyrics multiple times. So I think it's always been a very political event. But of course, that doesn't take away from the joy and the excitement of it all. And I'm reminded a little bit, actually, of 2015 when Austria won Eurovision. Also with I believe he wasn't non-binary. I believe for him it was an artistic figure, but it was also a man performing as a woman, Conchita Wurst. I just think it's, you're right, it's a topic that has been covered in the media a lot because everyone was excited at this chance to win. And I think everyone's now really excited that we have won it.
Juliet, you, of course, spent some time at Switzerland's, a part of the apparatus of Switzerland's national broadcasting service as well. Like many, many countries, state funding for the broadcaster, of course, is under question. Should they be having, of course, the tax that is applied? Maybe not. This is not going to be the year to make it happen. This, and of course, we've had sort of a bit of a long stretch since Switzerland's hosted. Do you think the state broadcaster here is ready to put on a show? Because listen, I mean, they did an amazing job. As you said, Petri did a great job. The production values out of Sweden were extraordinary last night.
I think you and I can help them put on an amazing show. And I'm a big believer in public broadcasters, and certainly, especially nowadays where you have news popping up all over the place of not necessarily secure sources and so on. So not only are we looking at the political side, I'm also wondering, where is it going to be held next year? In the political capital, Bern? I hope not. In the fun capital of Switzerland, Zürich? I hope so. But then Nemo in the press conference was saying, I would really like Biel, also known as Bienne, to host it, which is his town. But then someone said, maybe you can have the opening ceremony in Bienne, but then shift it all to our city.
Well, this is a possibility. Fernando, just quickly, what happened? Of course, you're part of the press scrum who is in Malmö, and there was this flare up yesterday afternoon, obviously, with the Dutch entry, and it was a little bit opaque in the beginning as to what happened. Had there been an odd sideways comment to the Israel delegation. We're now told, I don't know, 100% confirmed, but something was said to a camera woman, and this really erupted into something because obviously the Dutch are properly annoyed, and we're talking obviously about, of course, the state broadcasting arm of Dutch national television.
Yes, indeed, Tyler. And it's interesting because this time the media was kept in the dark. I mean, Joost Klein from the Netherlands, he was disqualified, I believe, like Friday night, so very close to the event. So there's been a lot of tension and kind of rumors and say, will Ireland be competing in the end? And you know, you can feel that tension in the air in the media center. And of course, there's been a lot of, you know, perhaps problems with the EBU. So even when Martin Osterdahl was, you know, giving away points or talking yesterday at the arena, everyone was booing. And suddenly everybody was shouting, Europa Pa, you know, the name of the song from the Dutch entry. So yes, you know, in the end, it's Eurovision. I think Sweden, as I said, they always host so well. I mean, it's part of the soul of the country, in my opinion. But there was tense. When I was entering the arena, there were protesters there as well, and a heavy political police presence, men with machine guns, snipers on the top of buildings. I never seen something quite like this in the 9 Eurovisions I've attended. But thankfully, I mean, there were no major incidents on the day and inside the arena. But yes, you could definitely see the security presence was huge.
Fernando, I want to bring in Jonathan Ducret. He was part of the viewing group yesterday evening as well. Another Swiss voice around the table. Well, first question: worthy win, but will this be getting sort of, you know, heavy airtime repeat? Is it going to be sort of the road trip song of the summer, Jonathan?
So I'm curious because one of the contestants, there was Guillaume Thiers maybe 4 years ago, was getting a good amount of airplay on the French speaking radio stations in Switzerland, and I think it's catchy, but maybe it's more impressive when you watch his performance as opposed to just listening to the song. So it'll be interesting to see how it does, and also how it does in the LGBT, you know, plus
orbit as well.
Orbit, yes.
Okay, well, let's just do a little spin around the table very quickly. Emma, we'll go back to you. If you have to sort of think what is going to go really get downloaded onto your playlist, what's your outstanding song, Emma?
I am absolutely going to go for Switzerland. I couldn't stop listening to it last night. I thought it got better and better and better. And I understand Jonathan saying, yes, it's the spectacle is amazing, but it's got lots of bits in it. Also, if you're under 13, Austria was massive in our house last night. It got quite ravey. I'm not quite sure whether it was that good, but it certainly flicked a few switches where we were. So I think maybe against my will, there'll be quite a lot of Austria.
Okay, well, Damita's, I know she's cringing slightly as the Austrian representative around the table this morning. A very spicy act. Also, we were saying quite interesting, and Fernando, maybe jump in on this one because, as you said, you've done, this is your 9th Eurovision. Almost how there was like a crescendo moment. They kept a lot of the good acts, and certainly they kept Austria sort of the spicy number to the end. Damita, I'll go to you first. Your take on Austria, maybe not one of your top songs, though.
It just made me laugh because it's exactly the kind of music that I would have listened to 20 years ago when I was 13. But I have to tell you, honestly, the only song that made it on my playlist this year was Italy.
Yeah. Well, no, I think everyone agrees. Italy, outstanding song. Maybe not, and Fernando, let's come over to you on this point. Do you think first that there was, just knowing that the Swedes are so good at producing this, and SVT, of course, are fantastic at live events. Of course, they also have Melody Festival, and unlike many other countries, Sweden has a proper, state-sanctioned run-up, of course, every year, which is their own domestic Eurovision as well. So that's why they are so good at this. So do you think also the way they looked at this, that they really wanted to make sure that they really went out on a high note before they went to the vote?
Absolutely. And it's always comforting when Sweden hosts the show because, they will make fun of themselves on stage. The production values, as you said, Tyler, are excellent. Even the Swedish entry this year, it's not their best, but it was fun. You can see that they really spent a lot of money in that kind of design set. And may I say something about Austria? I actually what a great choice to end the show, because it's a very simple track. I mean, of course, it didn't deserve to win, but I was actually screaming there in the arena. We will rave. And I love her boots and a bodysuit. I mean, sometimes simplicity is the key, you know?
Okay, we haven't gone to the eastern end of the Mediterranean. Cyprus. I think that many of us had Cyprus. Again, very spare, of course, playing to the audience in the last 30 seconds, the backup dancers, all male, taking their tops off. It was unashamedly super pop. And I mean, the artist, Celia Capps, is Aussie, but Aussie Cypriot, who went back, of course, to fly the flag. How was it in person? And I sort of have a feeling, Fernando, that is going to make it not just onto your playlist. I think it's going to be on Monocle's playlist as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Cyprus deserves to win at some point. They always deliver. You know, as you say, simple, a good dance. I mean, she had an amazing body there as well. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Eleni Ferreira's Fuego, which, I mean, I can't believe that song lost Eurovision, Tyler. But I'm curious, what did you guys think of Spain? I don't know. The crowd loved it, but the public didn't seem to love it that much, actually.
No, it was interesting. I think that in our betting circle, that there were people who definitely threw money down on Spain. It worked very well on stage as well. I think still no one believes her age as well, that she was born in 1968. But listen, there's a lot of sunshine in Spain, so who knows? But
anyway, references to Brigitte Macron.
Okay, anyway, exactly. And everyone said yes, she looked like Madame Macron as well. But anyway, Julie, Spain, yes?
No, Spain, no, but Italy, yes. I mean, Angelia Mango, she's a Nepo baby. Her late father was Mango in Italy, very, 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 very popular. But most importantly, it's such a catchy song and a feel-good song. And it's all about boredom, but actually boredom is okay.
Yeah, and Fernando, on the staging side as well, everyone was wearing black, and also there was something about the projection on the stage as well. They almost disappeared, and I just, how much today do you think it's also about, you could sort of rewind again maybe 20, 30 years ago, and it was about the quality of the costume, maybe a little bit of dancing, but there's so much that goes with it now. And you can debate this, but of course, Switzerland, his song it's a good song, but as you said, being on a spinning Lazy Susan and all of these other things, there's a lot of symbolism around it, climbing the mountain, the challenges you have in life, etc. How do you think that's sort of 20%, 30%? Because going back to Signora Mango, I think her song was great, but she could have actually she could have done well. Yeah, and I think maybe that's the fault of Raya and the producers of maybe not sort of building or something else. But Fernando, from your perspective, how much does that count for today?
Tyler, even more. I would say 45%. And I was talking to the production designer of the show, Florian Wieder, who did an excellent job. And I asked him, what was the most challenging kind of entry in terms of light, screen content, visuals? And he said, actually, Switzerland. Apparently, that spinning disc was not an easy one to pull it off. I mean, and you need quite a good core as well, because there was a time kind of Nemo goes back. I don't think I could pull it off, Tyler. I don't think I'm that fit. So I think you need to be fit and not only
Tyler's
have a great
fitter.
voice.
Well, here's what I'm wondering. Emma, I'm going to bring you in, and of course, Juliet as another parent around the table. Is this spinning disc going to become the new trampoline? Because we can sort of look back and see all the trampolines that ended up in landfill. Is this going to be? Is there going to be a living room size version? Also, of course, the backyard playground edition as well.
It would be the size of our living room if we installed it. So we might all have to jump on the Lazy Susan and reconfigure the lounge.
Or just go to the one next door to where we live.
Exactly.
You just mentioned
yeah,
that.
we have them. And I think that maybe there's a story in this. Damita, don't put it in the NZZ yet. Monocle wants to write about it first, but this could be actually an amazing new playground export.
It's funny because we talked about there being so much media coverage in Switzerland, and there was actually coverage where not only NZZ, but many outlets interviewed choreographers about how safe this choreography is and what were the odds
That's
of
so
Nemo
Swiss.
He was going to
having
spin
an
off.
accident, falling off. Yeah, and it's actually really not that easy. Like, I don't know if I would have done it.
Well, I was going to say maybe also other countries as well would not have endorsed this, but I think it is that interesting balance of Switzerland as well, which is about self-responsibility
and insurance
as well, and the flip side as well. Yeah, I mean wanting to follow the rules, but also there is that side of Switzerland. Well, if you want to go down a hill at high speed, if you want to jump off a mountain, that's your business, and you don't have maybe the Anglo world. health and safety measures that surround it as well. Okay, I just want to do a very quick spin around the table before we get to the bottom of the hour. Jonathan, from your point of view, if we look forward, we're 1 year out from now. Already there's discussions who's going to pay for this, etc. Within the last 12 hours, does Switzerland go forward and put on an extraordinary show? Do they realize the opportunity that they have from, as we're saying, soft power side, but we know that of course Eurovision is very much about hard power as well.
I think they have to, and I think I have two words that I'm hoping will come true next year: is Celine Dion, and will she show up? Will she be better?
Well, at least, she's sort of back in the fold now, right? I mean, she's on the cover of French Vogue, so we know that she can get into at least a photo studio, and she's on maybe some sort of path to recovery. So just those are the only two words, Celine and Dion. Yeah,
because maybe not everyone remembers that she won for Switzerland in, was it 90? No, when was it? In the 80s? Or
30 was it 36 years ago, 31 years ago? Anyway, that was the last win.
That was the last win for Switzerland, and it was kind of helped propel her outside of Canada into the world. But I think Switzerland can pull it off. It's always tricky because they try to please every linguistic section of Switzerland, so you get some weird melting pot of styles, and so I think they need to be maybe more international this time.
Well, at least the positive is that there's two official broadcast languages, which are English and French, so they can, I guess, bring as much Italian and German flavor as they like. But I guess also the question is, Juliet, who's going to host it?
Well, I think they need to Monocle brand it. Absolutely.
Well, maybe we can. Listen,
we're the right age.
The lobbying can start. Okay, Basel, Geneva, Lausanne,
Montreux,
Vienne, Lugano. Who's going to get it?
I think Zurich should get it, as I said
Should
before,
get it, but do you think they will get it?
Would. Yeah, they will, because we're going to lobby for it, right, Jonathan?
We're downtown Switzerland, so
get out of here.
All right. So, do you mean, again, as the Austrian, now on this side of the border for some time, but also representing a newspaper that has the name Zurich in it, it's going to be fascinating to watch the jockeying that goes on in this little country, no?
It will be. I'm sure, in a country where sometimes it can be hard to get approval for, anything. It'll be very, very curious and interesting to see what stories come out of this, but I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it in the run-up and the preparations. And of course, it would be very exciting to have it here in Zurich.
Fernando, from as an inward injection of tourism dollars, of course, all of the people in hospitality, the technical people, can you sort of get a sense of how much cash Eurovision actually brings to the host city? So there's obviously many intangible components to it, but when you actually think, has Malmö done pretty well out of this? But then, of course, as you said, this is maybe an extraordinary year, the amount of security, everything else that has gone around this.
It's worth it. It's worth it, Tyler, because, people are not here just, for the weekend. There are events 2 weeks before. The Eurovision Village in Malmö looked amazing. And I think there was 100,000 people that came to the city of Malmö. And it's not just Malmö. I mean, we're very close to Copenhagen. So I think even this tourism goes to other cities as well. So I think it is a fantastic opportunity. It does bring a lot of money. And if I may vote as well for who I want to which city I want to be hosted in Switzerland, it needs to be Zurich. I mean, we need to start that lobby, Tyler, because I think it would be excellent. And Zurich never hosted the show. Only Lugano and Lausanne did. So, I think it's well deserved to be Zurich.
Well, and as it shows also, this reveals Eurovision at a different time when you didn't have thousands and thousands of people coming in from all over the world. And I think that's the amazing thing now, even Fernando, that you see so many. I mean, I saw banners for Ecuador in the stands. I don't know, was there a Brazilian delegation?
There was Brazilians and Americans, actually. I saw a large number of Americans, I have to say, Tyler. And it's funny, I was asking, what's your favorite? They're like, I'm neutral, but I'm just obsessed with Eurovision. So there are people, I saw people from Japan. Honestly, the whole world is interested in Eurovision as well. And the British, I have to say, the British were the biggest ticket buyers this year. Even the host said. So it's a very strong British presence, even after the nul point as well.
Yeah, I want to actually spend some time not on the losers, but on the nul point component of this, which we'll
harsh.
Do. Very harsh, but we're going to come back to that because we're going to do the news in a moment. But I don't think we have everyone's favorite song yet. So just very, very quickly, Jonathan, your number one song. What are you going to be playing?
I would say Cyprus.
Cyprus. Juliet.
La Noia.
La Noia. You're Italian.
Also Italy, yeah.
Okay, La Noia as well. Fernando, I mean, can you single out one song?
Nebulosa, Zorra, Spain.
Okay, you're going Spain. Juliet is like
Yes.
she's
Flabbergasted.
she's flabbergasted. She's
I'm
making
going with
those,
my heart. I'm going with my heart.
those pinching Italian fingers, sort of, that sort of just look of astonishment. It's just coming up to the bottom of the hour, 10:30 here in Zurich, 9:30 in London. Emma Nelson's there with the news headlines.
Thank you very much indeed, Tyler. A fourth man has been charged with the murder of a Sikh separatist leader in Canada. Hardeep Singh Nijjar's death prompted a diplomatic crisis with New Delhi after the Canadian Prime Minister claimed there was evidence of a potential Indian government involvement. Catalans go to the polls today in a regional vote. Opinion polls forecast a comfortable lead for socialist candidate Salvador Illa over hardline separatists. Switzerland's won the Eurovision Song Contest. The Code, performed by Nemo, combined rap, rock, drum and bass and classical opera, as well as balancing on a revolving disc spinning at speed as they sang. And earlier this year, we brought you the story of an Italian island overrun by goats. The mayor of Alcudi was grappling with around 600 feral animals who were taking over the village, eating the contents of people's gardens and claiming spots in the local bar. Well, he offered to give the goats away and has now been overrun again, but this time with 1,900 offers from as far afield as Nigeria. And those are the headlines. Back to you, Tyler, in Zurich.
Thanks very much, Emma. Okay, let's start with you. I've not been looking at the British papers too much this morning, but there was a piece of the Daily Mail earlier in the week about the UK's entry, Ollie Alexander, and it was a comment piece, a little bit typically Daily Mail, but it was just I think it did capture a bit of mood, and the piece was saying that this particular columnist was embarrassed by it because it was not just, as someone who's from a different generation, but it was too sexualized, it was too nasty, it was too dirty. This is a program a little bit about, it should be a family viewing event as well. The UK didn't do very well in, of course, when it came to the professional judges vote. And then, as we said, 0 points from the world on this. And I'm wondering if there's, and this is, of course, not the first time the UK has not done well. What's happening? And again, I'm not making you the spokesperson for the UK, but you're over in London. So what's the feeling?
I can give an example. I can kind of explain from our point of view last night. So Eurovision it always has quite a few questions raised if you've got kids in the room, normally saying, can she put some clothes on, please? Or why is she doing that? And then we had the British Act, and it suddenly went really quite late night and got really rather nasty. And the questions that were being asked, there's quite a lot of explaining to do by the grown-ups about what was going on in what appeared to be a sauna. And as a result, I think lots of viewers suddenly found their evenings taking quite a complicated turn in terms of how to explain to a family audience what exactly was going on the stage. And I wonder whether Britain just lost the room because it stopped being super fun and super approachable, and you started then have to sort of, a couple of glasses in, you're trying to explain what's going on stage. It wasn't an easy moment, let's put it that way.
Jonathan, was there something too explicit about it? Because, okay, listen, I mean, this is an event which is very important on the gay calendar, but there was nothing nuanced about it. I'm wondering what happened there, because again, 0 points is really remarkable. And you think about, there's a rather large gay constituency who, of course, love and support Eurovision.
I was really disappointed because I like Ollie Alexander, and he was with Years and Years before and has great music. But I think the song was terrible. You could barely hear him singing, so the mixing was not good.
Well, there's a lot of also discussion this morning that, of course, that the technical wasn't very good around it, and this is why he got 0 points. I'm not quite convinced about.
No, I think the style of it, I agree with the conversation, that it was not. You felt almost dirty after you watched it, and it
felt a bit dated.
It felt dated. It felt like cliche. Like are you? I mean, I'm gay, but are you in a gay bar? Or are you at the Eurovision? I mean, what is it? And I think the other thing with the staging is you have this amazing, gigantic stage, and you're in this box, and you're falling on top of each other, which is quite a good metaphor about how the song ended. But so. That's my take.
Fernando, from being in a live perspective, of course, you were there for the rehearsals and the semifinals as well. What happened? And again, your take. I mean, this is your beat. And again, the 0 points is there's something. I don't know. Is there something more to this? Even people saying, did the votes get hacked? But what's your take?
First of all, I was surprised. I have a more kind of nuanced view. I actually thought the song was all right. But the problem, in my opinion, I mean, especially from the audience, that was the worst performance to see because you literally just see the box. I mean, he just left the box right at the end of the song. So, it was a bit too gimmicky. So you didn't have this connection with the audience. And in a way, that was the problem. Because I would definitely listen to Dizzy on the radio. I think it's a perfectly acceptable pop song, but it didn't have that sparkle. I don't mind a little bit of nastiness and something controversial in Eurovision. I think that's important. In the end, it's an adult show. But yeah, it wasn't a special performance. But nil point was harsh. It was the only country that got nil point this year. The jury did give Oli Alexander a few votes, but yeah, not the best entry for sure.
And I'm wondering what that does, though, for, of course, the BBC has to be behind this, and there's a committee of people that of course choose these acts and make them happen. UK has not had a fantastic run for a stretch, and sort of, Fernando, from your perspective, what does that mean? And you're in of course you're in Sweden at the moment, a country which, as we said, with their Melody Festival, they've actually turned this into a proper franchise. Do you think we start to see actually more countries? Because I think there's a certain power around Eurovision, and we know that people, of course, they love to watch not just competitions, but that people love the spirit of elimination, etc. Do you see other people picking up on what the Swedes have been doing as well?
I think the BBC needs to have like a meeting, to choose their entry, something connected, to the public as well. It can't just be like an executive. They'll say, oh, Oli Alexander will be our artist this year. And Tyler, I do have hopes in the UK because look at 2022. Sen Ryder, he was second. I mean, he lost to Ukraine, of course, which was the runaway favorite this year. So there is hope. It's definitely it's not because, Europe doesn't like the UK. I personally don't believe in that. If there's a song that connects with the audience, the UK would do well. I mean, it was second, as I said, just 2 years ago. So, it's not impossible. But the BBC needs to, I don't know, find an artist that will connect to the audience, have a catchy track, have a think about how they will do the staging. Please don't put anyone inside a box anymore. Let's stop.
And as you said, being able to, of course, pull the public in on this, so they also have a little bit of skin in the game. Not that kind of skin, but the metaphorical investment side as well. Fernando, just finally before we wrap up, in Malmö, of course, when you look ahead to next year as well, and you sort of highlighted the power of course, having Petra Mede as a great host, etc. Again, how much is also that part of the glue? Because there are many components to Eurovision which are set pieces. Everyone sort of course, loves the global ring around. Everyone loves the satellite delay, etc. That's in a way almost you can almost say sort of the pinnacle part of it as much as the performances. But when you think about the job that they did, is this also something the Swiss need to think about rather with some focus?
They need to start thinking about it now because, after Petra Mede, it's going to be quite hard, Tyler, because I love the sense of humor. It's so important because it is a long show. Of course, we're all Eurovision fans and we like it, but it is important to have someone that will glue. I mean, I love that joke when Alcazar returned. That's big news with crying at the discotheque. But, she was so funny at the end. It was like, oh, Alcazar, just give them a bottle of wine and then they will come to, they can regroup it. I mean, it's quite acid, the humor at times, and that's very rare to see at Eurovision. I would love to find a great Swiss comedian that can do that.
Okay, you better start now for sure. I'm not sure if there's any thought to that. Actually, maybe stick around for a moment if you can, because we're going to stay on your side of the Baltic right now and head a little bit east from where you are at the moment, and we're heading over to Helsinki. Our correspondent there, Petri Burtsoff, is there for us this morning. Good morning, Petri.
Good morning, Tyler. Hyvää huomenta.
Good morning to you. Tell me, yes, there was a lot of high hopes, of course, for certainly for Finland. I mean, they weren't maybe tipped to be a winner, but they certainly didn't do as well as much of the hype. And of course, this is nothing new around these types of competitions. Licking of wounds this morning in Finland.
I mean, Tyler, to be honest with you, I think most Finns understood that there wasn't as much hype around Windows 95 Man as there was around Käärijä last year. As we remember, Käärijä was one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win last year's Eurovision. He was the clear winner of the public vote. So last year, Finland was really, really licking its wounds, as you said, especially when Sweden won. But this time, not so much. I don't think anybody honestly expected Windows 95 Man to win, but we were happy at least to get some votes. Not like the UK. We got votes from for some reason a lot of votes from Australia. They both from the public, from the televoters, as well as from the jury. So thanks Australia.
Listen, if you look at the Helsingin Sanomat, if you look across the Gulf of Bothnia to the Swedish papers, Aftonbladet, Svenska Dagbladet, what are the papers saying? And I'm also just curious the narrative in terms of not just how the European Broadcasting Union handled, of course, the Netherlands situation, but also, and we don't know, was this really an overreaction? But it's obviously that's put a bit of a rift between Geneva, where the EBU is headquartered, and Amsterdam and The Hague as well. But what is the conversation there this morning?
Well, yeah, just taking a look at the Swedish media. So, it's kind of a combination of a sense of relief, really, looking at the public broadcaster SVT, that, the main kind of angle is that, it didn't collapse, I guess it's fair to say. But then, I mean, Aftonbladet in its editorial is more critical, actually. Their writer is calling the final a collapse and referring it to as a local, corny local song contest in Leksand. Leksand is a small Swedish rural town, and they just they criticize the way the sort of the acts chosen to perform between the contestants were chosen, and also they didn't like the virtual ABBA avatars or avatars.
Yeah, that wasn't great. What was people's thoughts on that?
That was creepy.
Yeah, creepy. Juliet?
There's a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
People are like, what is an avatar?
Yeah, Fernando, I don't know how that played out on stage as well, but...
We couldn't actually see the avatar, so that was kind of an effect.
Well, that's
television.
Not great either.
So I preferred Alcazar, to be honest.
Yeah, no, okay, good. All right. Petri, back to you.
Yeah, so just a lot of criticism. But then also, let's remember that the European Broadcasting Union's head is Swedish, Martin Österdahl. So we saw yesterday during the broadcast, every time his face was shown, there were a lot of booing from the public. And just overall, it's this combination of sort of we survived this, but we could have handled it a lot better. But then there's one sort of optimistic take in the Swedish media. That's of course that Norway finished last, and Norway didn't get any points from Sweden, which is, I think, a big scandal now that they're both in the NATO. I don't know who, they have to send some kind of a peace envoy to their Western neighbor.
Yeah, well, not to mention that you had a Norwegian act also representing Sweden as well. And maybe that's also sort of an official break in terms of all of the countries supporting each other. Just your take on, of course, I think Finland, I believe, also gave 12 points to Switzerland as well.
Yeah, I mean, looking at sort of, maybe it's best I don't say my opinion, but I mean, looking at what the Finnish media is saying, they say that it was a safe choice, that Nemo or Nemo, I think as they call him in Switzerland. One, they say that maybe it wasn't the best overall song. I think Croatia was the clear favorite to win, based at least looking at the Finnish media. But they said that it was a good choice after all. But then, of course, there's also in Helsingin Sanomat there's criticism of the whole system of the jury votes versus the public votes, and again referencing last year Käärijä's clear victory in the public vote, and again this year Croatia being the public vote winner, but then the jury sort of handing the victory to Switzerland. And then also sort of the fact that Eurovision Song Contest claims to be a non-political event, but then if we look at the jury votes versus the public votes with regards to Israel, it was quite clear that there was a political component there as well. So yeah, that's sort of the main angles that I see in the Finnish press.
Okay, so there's a bit of a political story happening in the DACH region, the German-speaking area of Europe. One of the big stories here, and I want to pull you in on this because you could almost be our official correspondent on this. Damita brought up a story at the top, which of course, so you had Eurovision ending last night, and we have Northern Lights, Petri, right now over Switzerland, and it was amazing. People sent photos actually on their way home last night, and it really almost looked like it had been sort of lit up by the technical lighting team in Malmö. The sky was incredible. So Damita, I want to come to you first. Why is this getting so much attention here? Because it's this amazing phenomenon, but it's taking up a lot of column inches. But it's all over the place.
Well, I mean, usually people have to plan, trips to Iceland or Greenland to see this thing. For a lot of people, including me, it's on the bucket list. It's something that you plan years ahead, and you research it and you read into when they're predicted to be particularly strong, so you have a shot at seeing them. And then suddenly they just appear over your head as you're walking home late one night. I mean, that's amazing. And for a lot of people, I think it's an item that they ticked off their bucket list, so to speak, when they were not expecting it at all. And they're not, because they have been visible in Switzerland or Austria before, but the pictures that I've seen from the past were very slight lights where, you could make them out if you really tried. But now the sky just lit up and the pictures of the skylines are incredible.
Petri, is this a story in Finland? Tourism under threat, Santa Claus Village upset that there could be loss of revenue?
Absolutely, it is. We're wondering, who's going to travel to Lapland now. I mean, Santa Claus is there, but Northern Lights has always been one of the main things to experience when you travel to Lapland. And now, sort of my friend texted me the other night, "Hey, you can see the Northern Lights in Helsinki." I go outside, I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And then the next day, I read in the press that it's actually been all over the world. That you see them in sort of Central and Southern Europe, in the States as well. So we're losing our competitive advantage. I think we have to, maybe mining is the future. Maybe Lapland has to sort of find a new attraction.
Petri, just before we go, there's many geopolitical stories that you had, but I think we've already had the geopolitical talk vis-a-vis Eurovision. So I'm interested more in a Helsinki Sanomat story that you found about a barber with no small talk, and this is interesting. A barber with no small talk is a hit in Finland. Well, this is the nation of no small talk. So. Yeah, unravel this for us, please. Yeah, so there's as you said, there's a barber in Helsinki that offers a service that you basically, there's a minimum amount of small talk. You go in and you book in advance. You tick a box and hey, no small talk from me. So you basically just go in, you say hi, and then you say what kind of a haircut you want, and then there's no talking before you say thank you and you pay. And it's as I said, it's proven immensely popular. And Finns not enjoying small talk is not news, but it's still. I mean, I'm surprised because thinking about it personally. I mean, you're next to this person for minimum half an hour, and if you don't talk at all, isn't it a little bit just feel weird in some way? I don't know. I would probably opt for a small talk. But then there's this funny thing. There's the interview, of course. Helsinki Sanomat interviewed this barber, and then she says that there's this one lady who came in and who had opted for the no small talk, and then just kept talking all the time, and then the barber herself had to shut up for the whole haircut. And then she asked this lady, hey, did you understand that you booked the no small talk appointment? And then she replies yeah, but I want to talk. I just wanted you to shut up during the whole thing. So yeah, there's some misunderstanding as well. But yeah, this is it's going to be a big hit in Finland. Maybe I don't know. Maybe some other country as well, with where people don't like small talk. How are the Swiss? Jonathan, what?
Well, I mean, I'm biased. I spent 23 years in America, so I can do small talk.
Yes. But when you go to the barber here,
I do it myself, so I don't have to.
Okay, so you don't have to. Juliet, chatty when you're at the hairdresser?
It's my finger on the pulse moment, especially when I go in Italy, and I just ask them all sorts of things about what do you think of Giorgia Meloni, or what did Berlusconi do before. So I love that moment and there are all the gossip magazines that you just sneakily think, let me just take a look at that and pretend I never read it. Esatto.
Okay, so and also what you've also disclosed is that you cross the border to get your haircut.
It's so much cheaper, certo.
Yeah.
Especially for.
Okay.
I see Damita smiling.
Chatty's the hairdresser, or no?
Yes, I go twice a year, and most of the places I get things done are Ukrainian, hair, nails, everything, because they're simply the best in the world. And so this is, I get a geopolitical perspective from the ground, from people's parents and relatives, and so it's super interesting for me to talk to these people.
Okay, I think the screen's going to light up. You've declared the Ukrainians best of the world. I think there's going to be outrage from Thailand, Japan, elsewhere, which is good. I think we can foster a good conversation around that. Emma, I think you must have a view on this.
I don't want.
You
people,
might.
No, a little one. Yeah, please don't talk to me at all. Well,
really?
Not at all. I want to. No, just quiet, please. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. That's all I can say. I love that moment when I can just sit there and no one's talking to me. It's brilliant.
Fernando, I cannot imagine that you can, whether you're in London or back in Sao Paulo, have a chat-free barber session.
Oh no, I do a lot of chit-chat with my guy Josh. I mean, he's been cutting my hair for over 5 years, and he's so friendly. We talk about life, love, politics, everything actually. So yeah, no chat-free for me.
Jonathan, sorry.
I'll say the worst thing is probably when your massage therapist is trying to do small talk.
Oh yeah, that's just a no-go. I mean, completely. It's just Petri. Listen, many other topics to catch up on. Of course, you can contribute to the Monocle Minute. There's lots of hours of free airtime, but have a very, very good Sunday up in Helsinki. You're listening to Monocle on Sunday. Just gone 10:50 here in Zurich. We're heading back to London. We should be going to Marseille, but we're not because Mary Fitzgerald, our North Africa correspondent, is in London at the moment at the French Literature Festival Beyond Words. She's in studio for us this morning. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Tyler.
Tell us a little bit about what happens at this literary festival. Why London? Why in French? And why you?
Well, it's an annual festival at the Institut Français in London, and basically it's a celebration of French literature, cities, ideas, and they had a particular focus on Marseille this year, which I was delighted to see. And I was taking part yesterday evening in a panel discussion on Marseille, its food, the place it occupies in the French imagination. We also talked about President Macron's obsession with Marseille. We also talked, of course, about the Olympic flame arriving in Marseille just this past week, and also Marseille literature, it's how it's represented in France. It was a fascinating discussion, and I can talk about Marseille for hours and hours.
Well, as you said, it was a big week. We saw the tall ship, the Belém, of course, arrived with the flame, and you touched, of course, on sort of Macron's obsession with I guess many would deem France's second city. Maybe just shine a light on that, because that is your beat. Why is it such a flashpoint? I mean, we understand, of course, the social issues, the challenges that the city has. Is it because he's turned this into what he hopes is a bit of a turnaround story? And many would argue that it's already a turnaround story, that it occupies the imagination, that there's just so many extraordinary openings, and it is an amazing city when you're there. But why the focus?
Well, I think for Macron, so first of all, he's been a fan of the local football team, Olympique de Marseille, since he was a teenager. There are several anecdotes about Macron before he entered politics, telling several people that his dream job would be to become mayor of Marseille. So his attachment to the city, his affection for the city really goes back a long time. This is not mere politicking, if you like. What's been striking is that since he was elected for the first time in 2017, he spent more time in Marseille than anywhere else in France outside Paris. Announced a major multi-billion reinvestment plan for the city a couple of years ago. I personally think that he understands Marseille's significance in France, not just as its second city, but also its place on the Mediterranean. Key hub on the Mediterranean, the potential of that in the future, and also, as some of our speakers discussed yesterday evening, also a gateway to Africa, the Europe-Africa relationship becoming even more important in the years to come, and France very much wanting to be part of that.
Interesting as well. And of course, we know he's got a very shrewd media team around him. Marseille also becomes much more of a media city. We've seen over the past weeks, Rodolphe Sadet, the chairman, CEO of CGM, one of the world's biggest container and shipping companies, making a move recently on newspapers, but now also purchasing BFM TV, one of France's most viewed news channels and also news business outlets, being a little little bit cynical, Mary, is that also part of it as well? That suddenly you actually see a French city, which is we move away from sort of the monopole, and suddenly you have a significant media family with significant ownership in Paris suddenly as well.
Right. And, you know, I think what's key there is the very close relationship between Macron and Rodolphe Saadé. The CMA CGM, not only is it one of the world's biggest shipping companies, headquartered in Marseille in a building designed by Zaha Hadid, the British Iraqi architect, but also it's the largest single employer in Marseille. And actually, I saw Rodolphe Saadé just this past week because he was speaking at the Europe-Africa Forum, which was held in Marseille this week. And he was speaking again, going back to that kind of Europe-Africa relationship, the relationship now, the relationship in the future. And he spoke very interestingly on that and how Marseille fits into that conversation. So I think there are many different threads here. And certainly the fact that Saadé just in the last couple of years has entered the media world, his proximity to Macron, there are several different layers there.
Mary, just very, very quickly, we've been so focused on this program about Eurovision. It's soft power, it's hard power play. Of course, this festival in London as well. Is this, of course, another extension, maybe a more highbrow version of also, of course, pushing the message and the power of French culture?
Yes, indeed. And what was striking with our discussion last night was talking about how Marseille in many ways challenges a lot of outdated cliches and stereotypes about France and the French. You know, if you look at the ceremony just this past Wednesday, the arrival of the Olympic flame in Marseille, the person who lit the cauldron with the flame was the Marseille rapper. He's one of the biggest rappers in France, Jules. This, I have to say, caused a little controversy in France. There was a lot of debate over whether Jules was really the person who best represented France for this. So it's the eternal debate in France over what French identity is. But I think what's really interesting about Marseille is that at a time when, yes, as we know, France, when it comes to soft power, it's always been up there in terms of the leading soft power nations. But I think in recent years, France has had to reinvent itself to better capture and reflect the realities on the ground in France that are very often quite at odds with the story France has been telling about itself to the world for many decades.
Mary Fitzgerald for us in studio in London. Thanks very much for that. I just want to, Jonathan, just very quickly, you came back from the south of France yesterday. I don't think Marseille was not on the itinerary, but fan or do you look elsewhere along the coast?
No, I do love south of France, and I do want to see Marseille, especially for its architecture and food scene. So hopefully someday. Juliet, you're Napoli. You're Napoli. Are you Napoli? I thought you're Napoli all the way.
No, Napoli. No. I'm a big fan of the south of France. I lived in Lyon for many years, and we used to escape to the south of France. Le Luberon. We were talking about it, Jonathan, yesterday. Yes. And he does a lot of biking in the south of France. I think I stick more to the food side.
Emma Nelson. I mean, listen. I know there's always a baguette close to being under your arm, and I think there's always a beret as well.
Yes,
nearby.
Maybe could you pass me a string of onions as well in the stripy top?
Yeah, exactly. I'll get you a Breton top as well.
Yeah, Mary's wearing one. She's got a stripy top on.
I love it. Julie, I have to bring you in on this. When you focus on holidays, looking back towards Austria, I know you've got a bucket list as well, or do you vote for the south of France too?
I really want to go. I've never been. I really want to go. I speak French, love French food, but have never visited. Okay,
so you and Jonathan can talk after the program. Emma, very quickly, do our studio engineers have Nemo lined up? I wonder if we can have a little bit of a moment to play out with him.
Do you know we do? We're ready with it. We're ready to go, Tal. As if you knew that it was coming.
As if I knew it was coming. Well, we'll give it a few more minutes. Listen, I know that we know all of the songs everyone's going to be listening to sort of beyond this as well. So we'll play out with Nemo in a moment. I want to say a huge thanks to Damita. Very nice to see you around the microphone, Jonathan. We wanted to pull you up for 2 seconds, but you just ended up staying, which is fantastic. Also great having Juliet here as well. Also Petri Burtsoff, of course, up in Helsinki. Fernando Augusto Pacheco for us in Malmö. Mary in studio, not in Marseille today. Also our producers today, Mariella Bevan and Emma Nelson back in London. Our studio managers, Lena Stivian here in Zurich, and also Mariella back in London. I'm Tyler Brûlé. Here's a little listen to Nemo. Have a very, very good weekend. Goodbye.